Welcome, everybody, to episode 14 of Black and Gold Weekly Bruins show brought to you in partnership with Black and Gold Productions. Want to give a huge thank you to them for all of their support. Mark Allred and the entire team at B&G Productions have been awesome. This show would not be happening without them. And as you can see, I am joined by a special guest today, making a return appearance to the show. It's my man, Avi Hoffman. Longtime subscriber of Off the Wall Hockey and a big-time Bruins fan who was actually at the game on Tuesday, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. Avi, thank you so much for being here, man, and taking the time to do this.
Man, it's a pleasure to come on, talk some Bruins hockey. How's the season going? And it's a big week coming up for the Bruins, and I'm ready to get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. You said it. This is a huge week coming up for Boston. And we certainly have plenty to talk about the Bruins here today. Before we get into it, though, do just want to remind everyone about the links down in the description. We've got Boston Bruins apparel. We've got NHL apparel, any team that you want. We've got NCAA college apparel, all down in the description. 3 links there in that order. Shirts, long sleeves, t-shirts, jerseys, sweatpants, accessories, hats, anything that you could possibly want. It's all down there in the description of this video. So, Avi, if you're ready to get into it here, we're going to talk a lot of Bruins stuff. And I guess the first thing I want to bring up is that you were at the game on Tuesday. That must have been pretty awesome being back in the Garden, actually having fans at games again. What was that experience like?
Oh my God, like walking into the stadium, you could like feel the jump in the crowd. You know, the fans, they were into it all game. There was a lot of "Let's go Bruins." And people were getting nervous when they were down 3-1.
Yep.
But like the crowd was still into it. I think like just having fans back definitely helps the Bruins go. They need the fans back, and when it was a great experience, like just going there, great 5-4 OT win. I mean, I was so pumped at the end. I was going crazy.
Yeah, that was awesome, and that was a great game as well. Didn't start out the right way for the Bruins, but they certainly finished it off in the third and then in the shootout. And it was nice to see the Bruins get a shootout win because they're not exactly known for being one of the better shootout teams in the league. But Coyle and Pasta with some nifty work in the shootout there for sure.
Oh yeah, Coyle. That's what we need out of them. Like
Yep.
our top guys, like when they're performing like that. We also killed a big penalty kill the last 2 minutes of overtime.
Mm-hmm.
That was good to see. Good to see Carlo back. So, man, it was a big win. We needed that one going into this week.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And I guess we'll start here just kind of reviewing the last few games here for Boston since I've last done a show. We had the New York Islanders game last Thursday. This was a frustrating one for me because they had a 2-0 lead over the Islanders in the first period. They couldn't hold it. The game goes to overtime. They actually had to come back and score right at the end of the third to even force overtime. And then they end up losing, like, 21 seconds into overtime or something like that. So that Islanders game, that was, I think, a frustrating one for me as a Bruins fan. Just the fact that this is a team that you have not beaten all season. You get a 2-0 lead against them, and you can't hold it. I feel like frustrating is a word that Bruins fans have been using a lot recently with this team.
Oh, it was awful. Like we played well for 2 periods, and
Yep.
then the old Boston Bruins this year, like we fall apart for 1 period, no matter what period it is.
Yep.
And you know we had them where we wanted, but the Islanders keep coming, and they just work. I think they're outworking us so far in their matchups this year.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to change if we see them in the playoffs or whenever, because I think it showed that like we can compete with them, but they're just a tad bit better than us, and that's got to change.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the more frustrating things is that we can compete with them and we are good enough to beat the Islanders, but we're having that one bad period, it seems like, every matchup where it all blows up and for a bad 20 minutes or even a bad 10 minutes, it just ruins the rest of the game because the Bruins end up blowing a lead or halting a comeback attempt or something like that, and the Isles always just end up winning. And you are not going to win games that you are outworked in very often. And I think the Bruins need to find a way to outwork the Islanders because so far this season, like you said, it's been completely the other way around.
Oh yeah, like the thing with the Bruins is like they're all a momentum team. Like when they're going, they're going.
Yep.
But as soon as the Islanders scored the first goal, the whole game changed. Like they kept getting shots on net. We were stuck in our zone. I think that just shows that like the Bruins, we might be one piece away, but we're definitely a playoff team. And I just think us going against the Islanders is a true test the next few games that
Hmm.
shows if we've taken that next step. And I think we can, but Islanders, they play four lines. They got a deep team and one of the best goalies in the league this year too. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's
not
played a huge role for sure is how good that Varlamov has been for New York, and he's definitely got himself up there in the Vezina conversation. So after the OT loss to the Islanders, the Bruins played Buffalo last Saturday, and I was almost big mad at this game. I could not believe this was as close as it was. The Bruins do squeak out the win over the Sabres, but just barely. And this was another one where, yes, the Bruins got the win, but I still left that game feeling frustrated because we almost lost to the Sabres.
Oh yeah, definitely. We weren't awake from the jump. Like we got off to our lead, but it didn't feel like we were playing well. Like the Sabres, they've been okay the last three games, but
Hmm.
like still they're the Sabres. Like we're not bringing the juice that we usually do. And we always play down to our opponents, like the
Yep.
Devils, Sabres. Like we should be killing those teams.
Yep.
Like it's gonna be close, but at least we got the 2 points. But that definitely should be a wake up call for this team. That like every game matters, and if we're gonna make the playoffs, it's still gonna be a tight race.
Hmm.
We cannot play like the Sabres are just they outworked us that game again. But I'm glad we got the last goal. Good to see Smith get the game winning goal.
Yep.
Hopefully that'll get him going. Just move on from there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was great to get the 2 points and 2 points that the Bruins desperately needed to get, but I still I feel like as a fan, we're just none of these wins are convincing. They're not like good wins where you leave the game going, all right, now the Bruins look like they're back and they're gonna, they're back playing the way that they should be. It's like you barely squeaked out a last minute win against the Buffalo Sabres. Now at least we're not the Flyers, but it's still frustrating because it seems like the Bruins can be better than what they are right now, but they're just not performing at that level on a consistent enough basis.
Yeah, I also think like the lineup's been changing a lot here
Hmm.
and there with the fourth and third line. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but yeah, like we got to get more consistent play out of our bottom six still. We know what the second and third line like they're either playing well or they're playing bad.
Hmm.
And we can't have that. Like they against the teams like the top teams, their second and third line are straight better than ours right
Yep.
now. But it can change. We gotta forecheck better. We gotta move the puck better. And I don't like what I'm seeing. We're not closing the games well out enough. I
Yeah.
mean, our defense has been okay, but our defense has been really solid, but our offense game is just not there.
Yeah.
We need to start putting that together.
Yeah. Another thing about that Sabres game was it was an afternoon game, and it seems like the Bruins have issues with early starts this year, which normally I remember going back, looking, on the teams, they always seem to love those matinee starts. And I remember going back to like when the Bruins were really good in the early 2010s when like the Cup team in 2011 and those teams feasted on those matinee games. And I don't know if it's because there's not fans there to kind of bring that energy, or there's a lot, now there's less fans there, but there are some people now in the crowd. But I don't know what it is with this year's Bruins team, but they do not feast on those afternoon starts like the teams of old used to when I was growing up. Like they are usually slow out of the gate when they have those early start times, and like for whatever reason they do not bring the energy and aren't really awake for the beginning of those games, which is kind of frustrating as a fan because it's like I get that it's early, but you've got to be ready to go. This is an NHL game.
Oh yeah, definitely. We come out slow almost not like the 1 o'clock games. We're just not awake. I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know what we're doing the night before with the players, but they are not ready. The one game we lost 4-0 to the Rangers in
Mhm.
the afternoon, that was one of the most embarrassing. They literally looked like a high school team. They
Yep.
weren't ready to play.
Yep.
So that's got to change. I think we still have a few more afternoon games. We got one coming up this Saturday.
Yeah.
That's a big game, so yeah, there's no excuses not to come out because the other teams got the same time as we do.
Yep.
And those are important games. Those afternoon games, you get a little more rest going into the next game.
Yep.
So yeah, that is no excuse. Something's got to change with the coaches. First period might be the most important thing for the Bruins, getting off to that good start because I think they do get better as the game goes on.
Yeah.
Always that slow start that kills
Yeah,
them.
absolutely. It's the slow starts that just tick me off as a fan because it's like you know the schedule, you know that you have an afternoon game today. Like, can you have some coffee in the morning? Like, actually wake up, please, because it's like the first period of these afternoon games have been generally pretty bad for the Bruins for the most part this year.
Yeah, they haven't looked good, and like it's only on them. And I know it can change. Like this team has the ability to change, but as long as I got to see one game where we're like coming out flying the first period,
Yeah.
and that'll like wake up the team. Maybe it's a fight in the first 5 minutes, something that just like gets this team going. Because anytime we play the Islanders, Capitals, one of those teams, and we come out flat, they're
Hmm.
gonna bury us. So I think that's what we got to strive for. That first 10 minutes, just going all out.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to see them do that this weekend against Pittsburgh. I mean, they've got two huge games coming up here against the Penguins. They've got to come out ready to play in those games, and I hope they come out firing in the first 10 minutes and just try and get a lead, because that's not something that they've been particularly good with this year, and particularly the Saturday game, which is an afternoon start at 1 o'clock. Those are the games where you've got to make sure you're ready to go from the drop of the puck.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's two. It might be the two biggest games coming up of the season. The Penguins are right in front of us in
Hmm.
points, and we have some games in hand. But these next two games at home, I think we should take at least 3 out of 4 points. I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Like if Malkin's not there and Kapanen's not there too.
Hmm.
Like there's no excuses. Like our top talent is just as good as theirs. Our defenses are probably similar. We just gotta outwork them and
Yep.
like play the down low game. We can't turn the puck over in our own zone that we continuously. Sometimes like the Devils had a 2 minute power play 5-on-5 the other night, and they scored the 3-1 goal. So
Yep.
I think it's just playing smart hockey, getting it going. Because the Penguins, they're looking good right now, but we have the capability to knock them off these next two games.
Yeah, for sure. So the final game, the most recent game for the Bruins, was the one that you were at Tuesday night against the Devils, a comeback 5-4 win in a shootout. That was another 2 points that the Bruins desperately needed, particularly the way that they played Sunday against the Devils as well. So they've had a couple here against New Jersey. The Sunday game was a 1-0 loss again. Mackenzie Blackwood with a shutout win for New Jersey. At least it wasn't Scott Wedgwood this time. But
Yeah,
Blackwood, huge game for New Jersey. Boston, another 40 shots on goal without scoring a goal, which that is extremely frustrating. That word comes up again, and I think it's going to continue to come up throughout this episode. Um, the couple games against the Devils, obviously they really needed that win in the second game after losing the first one. Just thoughts on those games and what is with the Bruins and not, at least, well, they did beat the Devils the last time, but struggling with New Jersey here.
yeah. The Devils, they're a fast team, and we
Mm-hmm.
struggle against fast teams right
Yep.
now. They have a little. They always have a little more juice. And the first game, they got that weird goal to start, but it was 3 minutes into the game,
Yep.
and we didn't score for 55 more minutes. We had chances, but we couldn't put it away. Like we played okay, but still not good enough to like beat the Devils. And
Yep.
Blackwood had one of those games. We got maybe a one unlucky call at the end, but it is what it is. We didn't. It took like to the last 2 minutes to score,
Yeah.
and it didn't count. So I'm not like. I mean, there was no Marchand in that game, no Carlo, but still no excuses. The young guys, they got to step up a little more. They know what they're brought to do to this team. And yeah, the Devils, they play well against us, against their speed and forecheck.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not a good matchup.
Yeah, they certainly haven't been a good matchup for the Bruins, and I think the Devils are one of those young teams with like this mixture of speed and physicality where they can kind of play the game any way that you want it, and that definitely gives the Bruins some issues. And Like the Bruins play well against physical teams. If it's like slow and physical, Bruins can play that way. But the speed added with the physicality, I think, really hurts the Bruins. And the Bruins don't play well against fast teams and really don't have the team speed themselves to keep up with a team like the Devils on a regular basis.
No, the Bruins are more of a physical team, I would say. We're more like we got to roll through all four lines and like work as a team. Where the
Hmm.
Devils, like, they actually have some firepower. Jack Hughes,
Yep.
like they got PK Subban's playing well the past few games. I mean, they're just like I was at the game. Their speed was just better than us. They got to loose pucks more than us,
Yep.
and I think that shows that like we might need to make a move for like a second or third liner. We'll see what happens, but I think those games like the Capitals, they're physical and they have speed too.
Yep.
If we see them,
Yep.
yeah, Penguins, they are a fast-moving team. They score off the rush a ton, so that could be a big issue with our lack of speed. But I think our physicality will help down the stretch, but it's definitely not where it needs to be, and we need to rack that up more.
Yeah, definitely. So that's the past week for the Bruins. An OT loss to the New York Islanders, a win against the Buffalo Sabres, a 1-0 really frustrating loss to the New Jersey Devils, and then a 5-4 shootout win over the New Jersey Devils on Tuesday night. So, a word that has come up a lot already in this episode is the word frustrating and frustration. And I think that's what a lot of Bruins fans are feeling right now with this team because we all know, I think, that this team can be better than what they're looking like right now. And there's some losses in there that they probably shouldn't have lost. There's been some issues creeping into their game. Even the games that they've won, like against Buffalo and New Jersey, were not convincing wins. Were not wins that made you feel particularly good about the team. Um, Obviously, their offense and lack of scoring, with the exception of the last game against New Jersey, seems to be still a pretty major issue for the Bruins right now. Just on a scale of 1 to 10, as a fan, what is your frustration level right now with Boston?
I would have to say it's an 8 right now, a
Mm-hmm.
good 8. I wouldn't say it's like a 9 or 10, but our team is just it shows we can do so much better. But our second and third line, Craig Smith, Jake DeBrus has been out, Nick Ritchie's been playing fine. Bjork has gotten good minutes, but he's still not putting up any points.
Yep.
I mean, they're all playing okay, but they're just not good enough. And the last like few games are just showing that like our team is like capable of beating these teams, and we're making like some the top lines making a dumb penalty once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
If our top line is just not on their A game, we don't have a chance most nights. We would
Yeah.
need one of our goalies to. So yeah, my frustration level is pretty high. But, it can change in the next few games, but we definitely have to rack it up again and like keep. We got to keep the forecheck going. Like we would dump it in, and we'll just let them sit there, and the puck will come right back out. We don't get enough zone time. Our
Mm-hmm.
power play's been good. Our penalty kill's been good, but 5-on-5, the teams are just better than us.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say for mine, I was somewhere between a 7 and an 8. I'll say a 7.5. It's just the frustrating thing. There's so much frustration going on with this team, and the biggest thing for me is that just we know that this team can be better. And we know that the lineup is there and the guys are there for this team to be a really good team. Yet here they are fumbling around in fourth place and not able to consistently put that high end effort out on the ice on a regular basis. And again, even the wins aren't like really good wins. It's not like they're going out and crushing the Sabres 6-1 and beating New Jersey 4-2 or anything. Like they're having to come back from down 4-2 against the Devils. They're barely beating the Sabres in an afternoon game in which they were actually losing a good portion of that game. They had to come back and win that one. And it's just like, you know that this team has more in it. You know that this team is better than what they're playing right now, yet they just can't seem. This has been going on for like a month now. They just can't seem to find those consistent efforts on a night in and night out basis, and that's the most frustrating thing for me.
Oh yeah, ever since the Lake Tahoe game, I don't know what happened. Like we threw a party or something. We thought we
Literally.
won, And now, like, it's just like we'll play well for a period, then we won't. Like, this team is just so odd, and we're still right in the playoffs. Like, our record's still okay, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a good sign. We're still right there. We're not playing to our best potential yet, so that's
Yep.
a good sign. But yeah, it's definitely frustrating the way this team plays. I hate how like the lineups always change. I would like Stanika to get some more playing
Mm-hmm.
time in the fourth line. I think he's earned that role, and yeah, it's not been good. And
Yeah, it's funny you bring up the Lake Tahoe game because it really seems like it was like that was such a bright spot and such a high point of the season, like blowing the Flyers out in an outdoor game on national TV. And literally, it's like the Bruins did throw a party for that game, and then since then, it's been inconsistent and downright bad at certain times since then. And it's funny because like after that Lake Tahoe game, I was like posting on Instagram about how much I love this team, and like I was like, oh, Freddie got his first goal. Like it was a big party for everyone in Bruins land. And then since then, it's been like, oh no, what is this team doing? And it almost seems like they got so caught up in like where they were at that point in the season, and like they were cruising at that point. Like they were one of the best teams in the league. They had just blown out the Flyers, who were supposed to be another good team, and we're finding out that they're not. But that at the time was a huge win for the Bruins. And now we've seen since then just something's gone wrong. They've taken their foot off the gas, or the consistency just isn't there. And it seems like that was a turning point where like maybe they got a little too comfortable after that Tahoe win.
oh yeah, they definitely got too comfortable. And I mean, I think some injuries have played in hand. Our defense, they didn't have
Definitely.
Legon, Carlo, Grizzlick is finally looking good and healthy. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's definitely not what we're seeing out of the first month of the season where they were rolling.
Yeah.
Now it's just like a different team. Every night this team's a different team. And it's just weird to see. It's fun to watch sometimes, but
Mm.
not when they're playing bad. And
Yeah.
it's definitely not like what I want to see out of this group. We should be ripping off 3, 4 wins in a row. Like that's what the Bruins were doing at the start of the season. So
Hmm.
that's what needs to happen. And this is a big couple stretch coming up. We play the Capitals, Penguins, Flyers all in these next few games. So I'm excited to see like where this team went after that big 5-4 win in the shootout. See if that can give them some momentum. And Halak's gonna have to hold it down.
Yep.
And
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously Rask again dealing with some injury issues and being out of the lineup. So now they're kind of leaning on Yarrow Halak to be the guy. Dan Vladar is playing some games here and there and getting involved as well. And they're going to be relying on those guys a lot to make the saves that they need them to make and whatnot. It's fun. We'll preview the week ahead later in the show, but they've got a huge week coming up with the matchups that they're playing. I mean, all teams that, every point in the standings is big, but like points against Pittsburgh and points against Washington and teams like that are even bigger for the Bruins. So, this week coming up is massive, but it's funny, we're talking about how frustrated we are, and much of the Bruins fan base is with this team right now. We've got a lot of people calling for them to go out and make some major moves at the trade deadline. We've got, a fan base in general that is not overly pleased with the way that Boston's playing right now, and rightfully so. But it's funny, I went to NHL.com and looked at the standings today, and their record actually isn't that bad in the last 10 games. I mean, it's certainly not great, but they are 5-3-2 in the last 10 games, and they've picked up 12 points in the last 10. So it's not like it's been brutally bad for Boston where they're like 2-8 or 3-7 or something like that in their last 10. They are 5-3-2, and their record isn't as bad as it almost seems like, given, the way that they're playing right now. So to me, that could almost be a good thing, because they're not playing well, but they're still finding ways to get points in some of these games. And that, I think, especially the loser points and with the OT losses as opposed to losing in regulation, are really going to come up big at the end of the season when we get to the final standings.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like we've been okay in the past 10 games, and those 5 wins, like 3 or 2 of those have been like bad wins. That's why we think we're doing so bad right now.
Yeah.
We're still getting some points that anytime you get a point, it's an okay night. But still, like I'm not liking what I've seen the past 10 games, even though we're 5-3-1 or 2, and like we're just not playing to our capability.
Yeah.
In the last like 3 games, like we've won 2 of them, but I don't like what I've seen from the
Yeah.
past 2 games, and I think that's gonna change coming up. I think that win really got the team going last night.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's not acceptable how we're playing.
Yeah, and I think that's why the fan base is still as frustrated as they are, and feels like that it's been worse recently than it actually has been record-wise, is because they haven't played to their potential. And even some of the games that they're winning, they haven't looked particularly good, and it's just like, something's wrong with this team, but then you look at their record and you're like, all right, well, at least they're hanging on here. And it's not, at least they're not in the same situation where the Flyers are in, where they're kind of dropping out of it. And I guess if you're a Bruins fan, at least you're not a Flyers fan. That's kind of the big takeaway here from the recent play for both of those teams. Is as frustrating and as bad as it's been for the Bruins recently, at least you're not a Flyers fan, because it could always be worse.
Oh yeah, that is so true. I don't know what Philly fans are doing after that loss last night to the Sabres, but yeah, we're still in a fine spot. I think the Rangers are the team we got to look out for.
Yep.
We played most of their games against them already,
Yep.
but yeah, it's we're still in a great spot. We just got to keep pushing, and these next 2-3 games are so important. We can because these next 3 games are we can push back into the playoffs, like secure a spot, and not
Yep.
feel so rushed. And I would rather not, even though I would rather play the Islanders in the first round than the Capitals still, even though we've lost all 5 to the Islanders. I'd rather us get that 3rd seed and try to play the Islanders first round. That might not sound good, but I think the Capitals are the better team still, the
Yep.
team that beat in the East overall. So yeah, I'm
Okay.
excited for these next 2 games. I'm really thinking this team's gonna get rolling. I have a good feeling.
I hope so, for sure. And that brings us into our next thing I want to talk about here, is the fact that Boston has games in hand on all of these teams around them in the division. I believe they have 4 games in hand over Pittsburgh and New York, and they have 3 games in hand over Washington. Those are the 3 teams ahead of them in the standings. Using those games in hand and potential, head-to-head matchups over the course of the rest of the year, do you think that the Bruins can catch any of these teams that are ahead of them, like Pittsburgh or New York or Washington, or do you think that they're pretty much either going to, probably get locked into that 4th spot, looking at the standings right now, given the fact that I believe they're 7 points behind the 2 teams that are tied in front of them, Pittsburgh and the Islanders? Do you think Boston can catch them using those games in hand, or are you thinking they're probably going to finish in 4th now?
I don't. I think we'll get the 3rd spot. I
3rd,
think we'll
okay.
catch the Penguins. We're like these next 2 games are really going to tell how that goes. But
Yep.
yeah, I think we can catch them. I think the Islanders and Capitals would be tough to catch, even though we do play the Sabres like 7 or 6 more
6
times.
times, yep.
6 more times, that'll be good. Yeah, our schedule isn't too bad the second half, but the Capitals and Islanders, they're going to continue the rack of wins, and
Yeah.
we're going to have to beat them head to head to really catch up to those teams. And we can, but like we played okay against the Capitals, but I bet we move up to that 3rd spot. I'm feeling like Pittsburgh might slow down a little, but yeah, I'm
Okay.
feeling confident.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's using those games in hand, it's definitely there. I do think that you're going to need to see one of those teams kind of drop off and have kind of a lousy stretch in their last 20 games or so, for that to happen. Because even with the games in hand, 7 points is a pretty decent amount to have to make up. But if Pittsburgh, they've kind of been rolling of lately, but if they drop off, I definitely think it's possible, particularly with the head-to-head matchups too. If Boston can win the head-to-head matchups, that's a 4-point swing really right there. So that's massive. And the Islanders are an interesting team. They haven't. They're tough to gauge. Anders Lee went out. He's obviously done for the year with that torn ACL. They went through a bad like 3-game stretch. Then they kind of got good again for a 3-game stretch, but then they lost their last two to Pittsburgh, and the Islanders are starting to look a little bit inconsistent here. So maybe they're a team that maybe doesn't have the best end of the season, and maybe Boston could catch them possibly in the standings. I do think it's possible that Boston moves up. I think it's unlikely they move into the top two, but I do think they could end up third. I think most likely, I'm thinking they probably finish fourth, but they definitely should make the playoffs. But the Rangers are coming, and I do want to talk about that a little bit. New York is getting hot, and they had a bad start to the season, but it's really turned around the last month or so. And all of a sudden, the Rangers are creeping closer and closer and closer. And I do think the Bruins should finish ahead of the Rangers, but is that a team that worries you at least a little bit? Because it seems like they're starting to come up in the standings a little bit here.
Oh yeah, the Rangers are playing great hockey.
Yep,
Miko Zibanejad is back to playing his old self finally. Panarin's back in the lineup.
yep,
He's one of the best players in the NHL. They're deep. Got Adam Fox, Chris Kreider. They have so many. Like their talent is there. It's one of the best lineups in the NHL, I think. And it's just about their young guys stepping up, and they're getting good goaltending. So I'm a little scared about the Rangers.
yep,
They're not too far back. They're like 5 or 6 points back.
yep.
And so, yeah, we played it. We still have 2 games in hand on them or something, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're definitely a team to look out for because they can get hot, and they've shown that like when they're rolling, they can beat anyone.
Yep.
Any of the top 4 or 5 teams can beat anyone. They played well against the Capitals. They beat the Capitals the other night. They lost 5-4 to them. So they're getting consistent goaltending. That's their key, and pretty solid defense. They can put the puck in the back of the net, and
Yep.
that's what the Bruins can too.
Yeah, definitely. So, obviously, a very, very tight divisional race going on in the East right now between all of these teams fighting for playoff positioning. We'll see what the Bruins can do. Right now, they're in fourth place, but like we were saying, they do have games in hand on all of those teams ahead of them. So, if they can take advantage of those games in hand as well as head-to-head matchups, they might be able to move themselves higher. If not, it's going to look like a fight for fourth between Boston, the New York Rangers, and probably not the Philadelphia Flyers at this point. But I don't know. Philly, it seems a little early to completely count them out because, if they just, it's just the thing with Philly is like there's no reason to believe in them anymore. Like at this point, like they could go on a really good 10-game stretch and get back into a playoff spot, but there's just nothing that I've seen recently from the Flyers that gives me any belief that they could do that. Like, why would they go on a good 10-game stretch when they're playing as bad as they have been for the last, 3-4 weeks? I think that's the thing with Philadelphia.
Oh yeah, Philly's still right in the mix though. They're still an okay team. Like they still have a good top end talent, but yeah, their defense is just a mess.
Dumpster fire.
Might be the worst in the NHL. Definitely top 3, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah, but they're still right there in points. We're only like 3 or 4 points in front of them and a few games in hand. So, they're still a team that they can get hot. They have goal scorers. Their offense is not bad, but if they're not getting good goaltending, defensive play, it's basically the opposite for the Bruins.
Yep.
We need their goal scoring, but the Bruins are a little more complete team than them. We're 5-0 against the Flyers, so we still play them 3 more times. Those will be big games too.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can go 8-0 against them. I think we should, but Philly's still there, and they're going to be right in the mix till the end. I think they'll get going a little, but I'm definitely not confident.
Yeah, that's the thing with the Flyers is like as bad as they've been and they've kind of become a joke around the league and kind of a bit of a laughing stock on the internet and stuff. Like everyone's making fun of the Flyers now. They're still only a few points behind us. It's not like they've dropped down into Buffalo territory or anything. Like they're still in contention. If they have a good couple of weeks, they're right back fighting in that fourth spot. So you can't completely count them out yet. I don't think if you're another East team. I think the thing though with them is that they have been looking so bad recently that teams are you almost want to count them out as a fan just because of the way that they've looked and the fact that it doesn't look like they're going to be able to put together any of those stretches that would get them back into a playoff spot.
Oh yeah, everyone's down on the Flyers, but Philly, they're a weird team. They'll rip off a few wins. They got off to a decent start this season.
Mm-hmm.
They were like third or second in the East. And then these past 15 games, they've just been dropping off.
Yep.
If Carter Hart gets hot, he starts to find himself. He's been really bad this year. I mean, mostly on the defense, but I'm still the Flyer. It's going to be a race to the end for that fourth spot between us, the Rangers, and the Flyers. So it's definitely not a lock that the Flyers are out of it, but they're definitely not looking great right now. And I would be more scared of the Rangers, I think,
Yeah,
myself.
I'm definitely more worried about the Rangers at this point because they're a team that they're so streaky, but like when they get hot and start playing well, they play really, really well, and they start looking like a legitimate contending team all of a sudden. And if they play that way through the end of the season, it's gonna they're gonna be coming up the standings and they're gonna be trying to get into that playoff spot for sure.
Oh yeah, the Rangers and they're so talented, like I said, and I am scared about them. But I think these next few games against Pitt, we can like move like these next big games. We're gonna try to move up.
Hmm.
We're gonna go right back down to where we were. So this is a big stretch, and there's only like 22, 21 games left for the Rangers. So
Yep.
they're going all out every game. Every point matters.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, 100%, and it's going to be a fun division race in the East throughout the rest of this season, and heading into the playoffs to see how everything shakes out and where everybody finishes. But topic I want to talk about is the Bruins' health because they have gotten some reinforcements back here over the last week. Jeremy Lauzon, Brandon Carlo, two big pieces of the back end back into the lineup. That's huge for Boston to get those guys back. Kevin Miller's back practicing. Looks like he's at least close. Um, I think you're going to start to see, Corrali and DeBrus coming off the COVID list and back into the lineup. So the Bruins are starting to get some of these pieces that have been out back into the lineup, particularly on the back end. I think it's really, really important to get Carlo back, get Lauzon back. Just what do you think that the kind of boost that Boston can get here from getting some of these guys that were out of the lineup back into the lineup?
Oh yeah, Carlo. He. We miss him as leadership. It just wasn't his on ice play. He's one of our probably our second, third best defender. Jeremy Lazon, he was looking great before he got hurt. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely great. And he's back in the lineup, but we need his penalty kill. We need his physicality on the defensive side. He's been playing well the past few games. He's been okay. And I think getting Jake DeBrus back, we need him to get going. He's probably not happy about with COVID
Yep.
coming out. And we're gonna need those guys. Like we need to get that consistent 5, 6 guys line up on D, same forwards for a few games and start getting some more chemistry down. Because Craig Smith will go up to the second line, then he'll come back down. And then we had the last game we actually had Pasternak play with Crunchy and Nick Ritchie for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Every day is like a different lineup almost, and I don't like that. I would like to have a little more consistency about what lines are gonna be where. But like Carlo Lazon back, they're definitely gonna give us more juice. I mean, they're one of our two best defensemen.
Yep.
Grizzlick and McAvoy can't carry the whole defense. Like we know what he's gonna do almost every night.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good we got our defensemen healthy, and that's a strong part of our team.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it's huge. And I just lost my train of thought for a second. Yeah, you said just the importance of getting these guys back into the back end and the importance of getting some consistency in the lineup. That's one of the biggest things for the Bruins this year is they haven't been able to really develop any chemistry because it's a new lineup every night because there's been so many guys in and out and line juggling from Cassidy and they haven't really played the game with the same lines and the same D pairings consistently for any sort of long stretch this year. And I think that's really hurt Boston over the course of the season where they haven't been able to build up those chemistry between particular players. And now that they're starting to get healthy again, it would be really, really great if they could stay healthy.
Oh
Um,
yeah, definitely. I mean, we got most of our guys back once Jake's back. Marchand was back, Carlo,
yeah.
and who knows what's up with Kasha. I mean, if he comes back, I'll take him because he's an offensive player, and that's what we'll need.
Yep.
Who knows what's up with him? He might not. He might be out the whole season, but yeah, just the inconsistency of the fourth line, third line. If I was the coach, I would like to have Stanika, Frederick, and Bjork on the fourth line. I think that would be a really good fourth line with speed and some physicality. And then, keep that same third line with Coyle, Ritchie, and DeBrus. I think I would like that. So yeah, we just got to have consistent more lines and like play more as a group
Yep.
because every other night it's like we're just doing our own thing. Every line's like we'll have two lines that play well and the other lines won't.
Yep.
And, the thing and our offense are got like Charlie Coyle. I've been so disappointed in him this year.
Yeah.
Our third, like we know he can play better. He played well in the playoffs last year. That's the guy who really needs to turn up his game because he's that third line or center X factor that we need coming up. So some big lineup changes. We'll see what happens when we get more healthy. See how it's looking.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of playing off that a little bit, obviously, as everyone knows, the trade deadline is coming up April 12th, and there's been a lot of trade rumors involving the Bruins, a lot of trade talks about who could they potentially go out and get, who could they make a move for. And there's been debate about whether they go and get a defenseman, whether they bring in a forward, if they try and add a big fish at the deadline, or whether they just do more of a depth move, maybe like a third liner who can chip in offensively. Like there's so much talk going on about the Bruins and the trade deadline, but with them getting healthier now and us starting to finally see the lineup that we're supposed to be seeing but haven't seen much this season because of all the injuries and all the COVID protocols and all the people that have missed games. Do you think that the Bruins scoring issues could potentially be solved from within with the group that they currently have, where if these guys, like, they have the roster already, they just need these guys to play to their potential, and this team could be a lot better offensively than what we've seen so far?
I definitely don't think we need to make a move, but I wouldn't mind if we made a move for a second or third liner. There's been rumors about defensemen, but I don't think we need defense. Like we actually have guys who are coming in on the back end who is deep, and we need that. Like, I mean, I've heard rumors about Tuukka Rask. He's been getting hurt,
Mm-hmm.
and I would trade him for like Johnny Hockey or something like that. Like I would make a splash move like that. With even though I love Tuukka Rask, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how many more years he's got left. I mean, our time is to win the cup now, and sometimes Tuca in the playoffs gets a little shaky. But
Yeah.
once we get our full lineup back, I think we'll be all right. I don't know if the goal scoring will be there. We'll see what Smith, Coyle, Cranchi, Jake DeBrus, those four guys can do.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully they get going because it can't be the top line every night. We know what to expect from them.
Yep.
And the top line is not performing. They're not playing their best. It is going to be hard to win games. So I do think it gets a little better the goal scoring, but I don't know how much better it will get because the most of the same guys have been there. But Jake DeBrus, he needs to start putting some pucks in the back of the net.
Yep.
Craig Smith, hopefully he gets going, and we really need Cranchi and Coyle, or two second and third line centers who can score and make plays, and they're just not doing that. Maybe they need a new winger on the end, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. I look at that lineup and I think, this team should score more than what they are. And I wonder, how much the injuries and the guys being out of the lineup and all of that have affected their scoring output this year, and the line juggling and the lack of chemistry because it's a different lineup every night and all of that. Because when this team's healthy and you really do have three scoring lines with this team when they're healthy, but they haven't performed like that at all this season, and they only have 88 goals for on the year, which is near the bottom of the league, and I just wonder if they get guys back into the lineup, if they need to go out and make that huge move for a scorer or not, because they should have the scoring there already. It's not like they don't have guys who can score on the roster. It's just that those guys aren't performing this season. And I certainly wouldn't be opposed to them going to make a move, but I kind of want to see more production from what they already have. Like, that's been the issue to me. It's not like they didn't put a lineup that can win on the ice. It's more the fact that that lineup isn't producing at the level that they should be. And that's kind of on the guys that are already here.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree. Like our lineup is good enough to, make the playoffs, make a good run. But like it starts like right now. We need to get these second and third line going. They're better than this, and I don't know what it is. Maybe they're not players we thought they were.
Hmm.
I really want to see Coyle really get going. Maybe get him with Craig Smith back on the third line, and we need some better chemistry. And I'm not opposed to making a move. I don't think we need to make a move, but if we did add like a small, good third liner, someone who can put the puck in the back of the net, I wouldn't mind it. But I think we should probably stay hold. I don't think Sweeney does anything, and I think we'll roll with this team because, like, the guys on the team are like they've been here. Like this whole team last year knows what the expectations are.
Hmm.
Most a few new guys, but we know what Frederick's bringing every night. He knows what to do, and I just think it's those top guys that we really need just to find their game. And once they do find their game, Krejci puts one in the back of the net again. Maybe Jake scores one the same game. Like we'll find our rhythm. But
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to making a trade. And we'll stay.
Yeah, we'll see what they do coming up at the deadline, but I do think that they have guys who can score here already. I just think that those guys aren't scoring this year, which has been the biggest issue for the Bruins offense. But there's certainly potential for the Bruins to go out and make a move and try and add some scoring at the deadline as well, which is coming up in about a week and a half here. So now I want to take a look ahead to the upcoming week. We've already touched on it quite a bit earlier in the show, but this is a huge week coming up for the Boston Bruins. They have games against Pittsburgh on Thursday and Saturday. That first Pittsburgh game will have happened by the time this episode comes out, but they've got Pittsburgh 2 games. They've got Philadelphia next week. They have back-to-back on Monday and Tuesday. And then they have Washington on Thursday, and then they have Philadelphia again next Saturday. So, huge stretch coming up here. Penguins, Flyers, Capitals. I don't know. I don't even. I'm kind of at a loss as how to word this, other than this is a massive week for the Bruins as far as the standings go. And if they're going to catch Pittsburgh, they're going to need to win a head-to-head game against the Penguins. If they're going to catch Washington, they're going to need to be able to beat them. They are already 5-0 on the season against Philadelphia, and Philly just lost to the Buffalo Sabres. Like they need to pound the Flyers into the ice and get rid of, make sure that they beat the Flyers every time out. Just kind of previewing this week ahead, I guess we'll start with Pittsburgh. I mean, what are you expecting from the Bruins against the Penguins here?
Man, the last 2 games we played against them, they were both close games, and we pulled one out and they pulled one out. So we're pretty even teams, but I think we're a little more healthier team now if they don't have Malkin and Kapanen still.
Yep.
And getting our defensemen back, getting everyone going. I think we should beat them tonight. Like I don't think Halak's in net tonight.
No, Vladar's expected to start.
Yeah, Vladar's in. He looked good against the Penguins.
Yeah, he beat them for his first win. Yeah, last week it was last week, I think.
Yeah, no, he was looking good. Hopefully, he has a big game, give us some confidence. But I'm expecting a dogfight. Penguins they got good speed. They play solid defense, and if they got Jerry in the net, if he's healthy still, they're gonna be they're one of the teams we got to beat. And I'm excited for these 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll pull. I definitely expect to win 1 game, hoping for 2, but we definitely should beat them one time.
Yeah, I mean, the Bruins have to at least split this series. Otherwise, they're going to be either fourth or out as far as I'm concerned. But they've got to win at least one of these games. I would really like to see Boston take at least 3 out of the 4 points. If you're going to drop one, at least drop it in overtime and get a point out of it. But Pittsburgh is a team that you have games in hand on. Obviously, this isn't going to affect the games in hand because you're both playing. But you're 7 points behind in the standings right now. you need to start making up some of those points. And if you come out and take 3 out of 4, that's going to help you quite a bit in trying to catch them in the standings. So huge matchup coming up here Thursday and Saturday against Pittsburgh. And then Monday and Tuesday, back-to-back, they have the Philadelphia Flyers. This, to me, are 2 games that the Bruins need to win. This is a down-and-out Flyers team who's getting ragged on by the entire hockey world at this point. They've been awful for the past, 3 weeks now. They just lost to the Sabres. Everyone's making fun of them. You're 5-0 against this team already this season. You need to pound the Flyers into the ground and win both of these games if you're the Boston Bruins, in my opinion.
But yeah, we have to get 4 points out of this. But I think these games actually are going to be the hardest games against the Flyers because the Flyers are desperate for wins.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to go into that thinking we've lost 5 times to this team. But there's no excuses. We have to go out there and win those 2 games. We're the better team, and their defense is terrible, and that should help the Bruins. Pasternak's been rolling against the Flyers this whole year. But yeah, we should definitely come out with 4 points. I'm expecting a hard game from the Flyers, though. It's definitely not going to be an easy game. Like every game in the East is hard. So I'm expecting a good hockey from the Bruins. But yeah, these next 4 games are really going to turn up the season. And hopefully we can just shut it down. Flyers are a team who can score, and our defense is pretty good, but we get the puck down low and play smart hockey, we should beat the Flyers, and I'm expecting to come away with some big wins.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. And the Flyers are definitely a beatable team for the Boston Bruins. And talk about the Flyers being desperate, which they absolutely at this point are going to be very, very desperate in trying to get some wins on the board and take that 4th spot back from the Bruins as they're only a few points behind. But the Bruins need to be desperate as well. I mean, this is a spot where if you're Boston, you need to realize the importance of these games against Philly and the fact that Philadelphia is right behind you in the standings and the fact that they're going to be bringing a little bit extra and a little bit more of a chip on their shoulder because of the way that they've been playing recently, and also because you've beaten them so many times already this season. Like, the Flyers are going to bring it. These are not going to be easy pushover games, and the Bruins need to play with that desperation like they're a team fighting for a playoff spot as well.
Oh yeah, I agree. Like, the Flyers, they're a sneaky team still. Like, I'm still not counting them out, but the Bruins are the better team. We're the more complete team. And we got to go show that. And we got to bring it to them because Philly's going to be right there in the thick of things. And these are probably the next 2 biggest games of the season because, if we don't play well against the Penguins, we split it or they get 3 out of 4, then those Flyers games are absolutely must-wins. So those are 2 big games where we can push farther away from the Flyers or it's going to come right back down. And, then we got the Capitals coming up. So you can get it's either going to go really up or we might just stay where we are. So I'm excited.
Yeah. Then on Thursday we have Washington, and again on Sunday, but that's pushing beyond this coming week. But Washington's another huge matchup here. I mean, division leading team, red hot right now. I know they just lost to the Rangers, but before that, I think they were 9-1 in their 10 games before that last loss to the Rangers. So Washington's playing really, really well. They're leading the division, and that's not a team, that is going to be obviously easy to beat. I mean, the Bruins are really going to have to bring their A game if they're going to beat the Washington Capitals. So that's another huge matchup coming up a week from today on Thursday of next week. It's like it's
exciting.
It's exciting for sure. It's going to be one of those games that I think it's going to be really nasty, as it usually is between the Capitals and the Bruins. This is the first time they've played since the Wilson hit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got that added into the mix. And then you've got the fact that the Capitals are playing really, really well and not a team that the Bruins. Well, I get this year the Bruins have actually played Washington a lot better than they have in recent history before this season, so that kind of pushes it into the Bruins' favor a little bit. I'm expecting a dogfight of a game in that one against Washington. How about you?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be. I hope there's so many fights in it, but like it's gonna go back to the Carlo hit. Bergie said something to him, and then
Mm-hmm.
Jamaica. That was probably our best game of the season after that Carlo hit.
Yep.
We played, like we took it to the Capitals. I absolutely love that game how we played, but
Yep.
the Capitals they got four lines, they got speed, they got physicality. Ovechkin's turning up right now, so they're not gonna be a team like you're just gonna win easily. Like the Capitals, they're gonna be right there for you,
Yep.
and I'm expecting us to pull out a win against them. I really think we can beat the Capitals, but it's all going to come down to relying on four lines, playing the smart hockey. And, we're going to need that physicality. We got our big boys back on defense, so I'm excited for that game, and it's definitely going to be a drop the gloves. I'm saying at least one time in that.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. I'm hoping for a real physical, nasty matchup, some old time hockey between the Caps and the Bruins. That's going to be a fun game for sure. So, huge week coming up for the Bruins. 2 games against Pittsburgh, 2 games against Philadelphia, and then 1 against Washington on Thursday. Huge points on the line as the Bruins fight for playoff positioning in the East Division this year. And these are, big matchups and against teams that they have games in hand on as well. If they can take advantage of the games in hand as well as the head-to-head matchups, that would really give Boston a chance to move higher in the standings. Um,
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we need to win these games against the Caps just to move up a little in the standings, and it'll give us a big confidence of where we can beat the Capitals and show. We played well against them, but Capitals are still the team to beat, and
yep.
we'll see them maybe in the playoffs. But one game at a time. I'm excited for this weekend coming up, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely, man, for sure. So that is going to bring us now to our final segment of the show, and this is a fun one. I actually got mine from last week right, so second time this year I've gotten one right. It's time for Bruins Bet of the Week. This is always fun to do. Shout out to BetOnline AG for their sponsorship of Black and Gold, the Black and Gold Hockey podcast, as well as the website blackandgoldhockey.com. BetOnline is what I use to place my bets. I've been going all season long and having a fun time this year, doing pretty well. So for those of you that may be new or not know, can be any bet, money line, puck line, over under, involving the Bruins in the upcoming week. And mine for this week is coming up on the game on the 5th against the Philadelphia Flyers, which is the first game, the Monday night game. I have the Bruins money line over the Flyers to win that game straight up. Again, we talked about those being must-win games for the Bruins against Philadelphia and the fact that Boston's 5-0 against them this season. And Boston desperately needing those points and making sure that they keep Philadelphia down behind them in the standings. That's a big game for the Bruins. They need to win it. I've got Boston taking that one over Philly. Avi, you got anything to add for Bruins Bet of the Week?
Yeah, if the Bruins are favored again on Saturday, I
Mm-hmm.
would take Penguins money line. I would take Penguins money line or plus 1.5 because the Bruins are favored tonight, and I
Yeah.
don't know if they should be favored. But yeah, on Saturday, this coming up Saturday, I would take Penguins money line probably if they're the underdogs. That would
All
be
right.
my bet.
So
So
Avi's
not
liking
for the
the.
Bruins, but they don't play well at 1 o'clock.
Yeah,
So
the 1 o'clock games are tough. Boston hasn't looked great in them. So Avi's taking Penn's money line on for the Saturday game, and I am taking Bruins money line over the Flyers for the Monday game. And I could actually see both of those things happening, definitely. I could see the Bruins splitting with the Pens maybe, and then beating the Flyers both times and going, winning 3 out of those 4 games. And that, I guess, would not necessarily be a bad thing as we start this upcoming week. If they can take 3 out of the next 4, I'd be happy with that as a Bruins fan, I think, against the Penguins and Flyers. But that is going to do it. Those were our bets of the week, everybody, and that brings us now to the end of episode 14. So, Avi, man, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Coming on the show, chatting some Bruins hockey with us. It was great to have you again.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Love talking about the Bruins. It's been a crazy ride so far. I'm hoping for the best coming up. I'm excited. We got a great channel here going on.
Hey, thank you, and definitely excited for these upcoming games for the Bruins and for the rest of the season to see how they're able to do here. But that brings us now to the end of episode 14, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, this show is in partnership with Black and Gold Productions. Huge thank you to Mark Allred and everyone at B&G for their support. They have a great website, blackandgoldhockey.com. A team of writers putting out awesome Bruins articles each and every day. So definitely check out the website, as well as a huge podcast network of all kinds of shows covering Bruins and NHL related stuff. So check those out as well. Again, thank you guys in the all watching in the audience. Obviously, this would not happen if nobody was watching. So appreciate each and every one of you guys as well. Thank you to Avi for being here on the show and being the guest this week. Episode 14 is done. Talk to you guys next week. We'll be back with episode 15. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll have a whole new week of Bruins topics to talk about. And the trade deadline, big time coming up here. Just now, 12 days away, 11 days away when by the time that this gets dropped. So obviously, plenty will be on the docket for next week. But that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. Thank you guys so much again, and talk to you next week.